I had just wrapped up a 3-day business trip to Chicago. The trip itself was stressful. Endless meetings, late nights strategizing over drinks, and not a single moment to breathe. By the time I boarded my flight home, I was drained but relieved. My plan was simple: surprise Emily by coming home a day early and finally have the quiet evening together that we hadn't had in months. The plane touched down at 4:45 p.m. I didn't tell Emily I was coming. We used to love surprising each other like that. Spontaneous gestures to keep the spark alive. But lately, those sparks felt one-sided. Emily had become distant. She wasn't cruel, just detached. Conversations that once lasted hours were now replaced by polite, surface-level exchanges. Still, I told myself it was a phase. Work stress, maybe. I arrived home just after 6. As I approached the house, I noticed something odd. The driveway was packed. Cars I didn't recognize filled the space, spilling onto the street. The sound of music thumped faintly from inside. My stomach twisted. Party? On a Thursday night? I stepped through the front door, suitcase still in hand. What I saw froze me in place. The living room, a space that had always felt like ours, was packed with strangers. People lounged on the couch, drinks in hand, laughter echoing through the room. The coffee table was littered with beer bottles and wine glasses. It looked like something out of a college frat movie. And there, in the center of it all, was Emily. She was standing by the fireplace, dressed in a short black dress I didn't recognize. Her back was turned to me, and she was laughing, her hand casually resting on the arm of a man I'd never seen before. He was leaning in close, too close. The room fell quiet as people noticed me standing there. Emily turned around, and for a split second, her face betrayed her. Shock, panic. Then, just as quickly, she covered it with a forced smile. "Jason," she said, her voice high-pitched and brittle. "You're home early?" Behind her, the man shifted uncomfortably. Emily didn't move to greet me, didn't offer an explanation. Instead, she stepped forward, her body blocking my view of the man entirely, as if she could erase what I'd just seen. "I can see that," I replied coldly, my eyes scanning the room. "What's going on?" "It's just a little get-together," she said, her tone overly casual. "You know, some friends from where, exactly?" I cut her off. My voice was louder than I intended. "Because I don't recognize a single person here. And I sure as hell don't know him." I pointed past her at the man, who was now inching toward the door like a guilty thief caught in the act. Emily's face hardened. "Can we not do this right now? You're making a scene." I laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. "A scene? You think I'm making a scene?" I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "I've been gone for 3 days, Emily. 3 days. And I come home to this." Her eyes darted around the room, clearly uncomfortable with the audience. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Let's talk upstairs," she hissed through gritted teeth. "No," I said firmly, pulling my arm free. "We'll talk here. In front of your friends." The room was silent now, all eyes on us. I didn't care. My gaze locked onto hers, demanding an answer. She opened her mouth to speak but was interrupted by the sound of the front door slamming. I turned just in time to see the man sprinting down the driveway, his car speeding off into the night. And just like that, the dam broke. "You want to explain who that was?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and betrayal. Her response wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was a command. "Get out," she said, her voice ice cold. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. "What?" "You heard me," she said, her eyes narrowing. "This is my house, and I don't need you ruining the night for everyone. Just go." I stared at her, disbelief flooding every part of me. This wasn't my wife. This wasn't the woman I married. But then, something in me snapped. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a letter, one I hadn't planned on revealing tonight. Inside were the results of a private investigation I'd commissioned during my trip. I had been suspicious for weeks, and now, in this moment, I was grateful I hadn't ignored my gut. I handed her the letter without a word. Her face went pale as she read it, the color draining from her cheeks. When she finished, she looked up at me, her expression a mix of fury and fear. What did you do?" she whispered. "I found the truth," I said simply. "Now it's your turn to decide how much of it you want these people to hear." Her response was immediate and venomous. She snatched the letter, crumpled it in her hand, and slammed the door in my face. That was the moment I knew this wasn't going to end quietly. The sound of the door slamming echoed in my ears as I stood there on the front porch, my suitcase still in hand. For a moment I felt paralyzed. My chest was tight, my breathing shallow. She'd slammed the door on me, in my own damn house. The people inside hadn't even tried to stop her. Instead, I could hear muffled whispers and nervous laughter as they pretended nothing had happened. The audacity of it all burned in my chest like a wildfire. But I didn't leave. Instead, I leaned against the doorframe and waited. I wasn't going to let her shut me out of this conversation. Not tonight. Not after what I'd uncovered. I thought back to the letter she had crumpled in her hand. That letter was my weapon, and I wasn't done wielding it. I'd hired the private investigator on a whim, spurred by weeks of uneasy feelings I couldn't shake. It had taken less than a week for the detective to send me a file, photos, timestamps, and receipts, confirming everything I had feared. The man she was with tonight? He wasn't the first. He was just the most recent. The door swung open abruptly, and there she was. Emily stood in the doorway, her face a mask of cold fury. She stepped outside, shutting the door behind her to keep the partygoers from overhearing. "You had me followed?" she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "I did," I said calmly, though inside, I was anything but calm. My hands were trembling, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. And guess what? It turns out my instincts were right. Her eyes darted to the window as if checking to see if anyone was watching us. "This is low, Jason. Even for you." "For me," I said, my voice rising. "You've been sneaking around behind my back for God knows how long. And I'm the one who's low?" She crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe, a smug smirk curling her lips. "You know what your problem is? You're paranoid. Always have been. You're so busy imagining problems that you can't see how miserable you've made this marriage." "Miserable?" I repeated, stunned. "Emily, you're cheating on me. You invited some guy into our home. You threw a party while I was gone. How exactly am I the problem here?" "You're so dramatic," she said, rolling her eyes. "It was just a party, and you're acting like I killed someone." I felt the anger rise in my throat, hot and bitter. "A party?" I said, stepping closer. "What about the hotel receipts? The late-night meetups? The photos of you with that guy from the coffee shop last month? Was that just a party, too?" Her face paled slightly, but she recovered quickly. "You're pathetic," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Digging through my life like some desperate stalker. Maybe if you spent half as much energy making me happy as you do playing detective, we wouldn't be here right now." I laughed bitterly. "Making you happy? Is that your excuse? That I didn't make you happy enough? So you decided to screw around behind my back?" Her expression hardened. "Believe what you want," she said, turning toward the door. "I don't owe you an explanation." Before she could go back inside, I grabbed her wrist. Not hard, but enough to stop her. She froze, glaring at me. "We're not done," I said firmly. "You're going to tell me the truth. All of it. And then, Emily, you're going to tell me why the hell you think I should be the one to leave." She yanked her arm away and stared at me with a look that could cut glass. "You want the truth, Jason?" she said, her voice sharp and cold. "Fine. The truth is, I've been over this marriage for years. You're boring. Predictable. You make everything about you, and honestly, I didn't think you'd even notice." Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. I opened my mouth to respond, but she didn't give me the chance. "And another thing," she continued, stepping closer to me now, her voice rising. "I'm not sorry. I don't regret a single thing. So go ahead. Take your little letter, take your righteous anger, and do whatever you need to do. Because I'm done." She turned on her heel and marched back inside, slamming the door once again. This time I didn't follow her. I stood there on the porch, staring at the closed door, my mind racing. Her words repeated in my head like a broken record. "I'm not sorry. I don't regret a single thing." Something inside me shifted. The shock, The heartbreak. It was still there, but now it was joined by something else. Something colder. If she thought I was just going to walk away quietly, she was dead wrong that I didn't leave the porch. Not yet. My mind was racing, emotions clashing like storm clouds inside me. I felt humiliated, betrayed, but above all, furious. Her words echoed in my head. I'm not sorry. I don't regret a single thing. She wanted me to leave? Fine. But not before I burned her fantasy world to the ground. I stepped back to the door, my hand hovering over the handle. Inside, I could hear the muffled music and laughter. The thought of her going back to her little party, laughing and drinking like nothing had happened, lit a fire in my chest. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room fell silent as heads turned to look at me. Emily, standing by the kitchen counter with a glass of wine in hand, froze mid-laugh. Her smug expression faltered for a moment, replaced by a flicker of anger. "What are you doing?" she hissed, setting her glass down. "What am I doing?" I shot back, my voice loud and steady. "What are you doing, Emily? Throwing a party in the house we built together while you're sneaking around with some random guy?" The room was dead silent now. Everyone stared at us, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Emily's face reddened, but she quickly masked it with a fake smile. "Jason, stop embarrassing yourself," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Why don't you go cool off?" "Oh, I'm cool," I said, stepping further into the room. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and held it up. "In fact, I'm so cool, I've got receipts. Want to see them, Emily? Want your friends to see them?" Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't back down. "You're being ridiculous," she said through gritted teeth. "Am I?" I turned to the room, addressing the stunned guests. "Did she tell you all about her little rendezvous at the Marriott last month? Or how she canceled on a dinner with me because she was too busy working late?" "With him." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Emily's carefully constructed facade was crumbling before my eyes, and I wasn't about to stop. "Jason, stop," she snapped, her voice rising. "No, I think I'm just getting started," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "You see, I hired a private investigator while I was out of town. Turns out Emily's been real busy. Lunches, late-night meetups, even bringing him here when she thought I wouldn't notice. So, Emily, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone the truth? Or should I?" Her face was a mask of fury now, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. The room was frozen, everyone waiting for her response. "You're pathetic," she spat finally, her voice shaking with anger. "You think you can come in here and humiliate me? These people are my friends, Jason. They know me. They'll believe me over your stupid little investigation." I took a step closer, my voice dropping. "Then explain why that guy you were all over earlier ran out of here like a coward the second I walked in." The murmurs grew louder now, her friends exchanging uneasy glances. Emily's confidence was slipping, and she knew it. "This isn't worth my time," she said finally, grabbing her wine glass and turning toward the kitchen. "Oh, it's worth mine," I said, following her. "You wanted me to leave? Fine. But not before everyone here knows exactly who you are." I turned back to the crowd. "In case anyone's curious, the man she was with tonight isn't even the first. She's been seeing other guys for months. And while I was out of town, busting my ass to provide for us, she was here, turning our house into her personal playground." One of Emily's friends, a blonde woman in a sequin top, gasped audibly. Another man, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, started edging toward the door. "Jason, enough!" Emily shouted, slamming her glass onto the counter. "No, Emily," I said, my voice calm now. "Enough is you lying to my face, disrespecting our marriage, and then trying to make me out to be the villain. Enough is you thinking you could get away with this without consequences." She stormed past me, heading for the stairs. "I'm done with this," she snapped. "Good," I called after her, "because so am I." As she disappeared upstairs, the room remained eerily quiet. The guests shuffled awkwardly, a few muttering excuses as they began to leave. I didn't stop them. Let them go. Let them take the story with them. I turned back toward the door, my suitcase still sitting where I'd left it. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was solid. She wanted me gone. I'd leave. But I wasn't going quietly, and I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Not yet. I didn't let her storm off upstairs without following. Leaving her to brood, spin her lies, and plot her next move wasn't an option. If tonight was going to end, it would end on my terms. The stairs creaked under my weight as I ascended, each step a reminder of the years we'd spent in this house. Memories of lazy Sundays, Christmas mornings, and late-night talks swirled in my mind, now tainted by the realization that they'd meant nothing to her. The bedroom door was ajar, and I pushed it open without knocking. Emily was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, furiously typing on her phone. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "What? Texting your little boyfriend for advice on how to handle this?" I asked, my voice sharp. She didn't look up. "You've made your point, Jason. Now get out of my face." "No," I said firmly, stepping inside and closing the door behind me. "We're not done." Finally, she put her phone down and turned to face me, her expression hard and unyielding. "What do you want from me? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry you couldn't keep me interested. I'm sorry you're so obsessed with playing the perfect husband that you didn't notice how unhappy I was." Her words were like venom, each one cutting deeper than the last. But I didn't flinch. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "Unhappy?" I repeated, crossing my arms. "You think that excuses what you've done? The lies, the cheating, the absolute disrespect. If you were so unhappy, why didn't you just leave?" "Leave?" She let out a bitter laugh. "And give you the satisfaction of playing the victim? No thanks." I stared at her, stunned by how cold she'd become. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by this stranger. "You've got some nerve," I said, shaking my head. "I've been nothing but loyal to you, Emily. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me." She rolled her eyes. "Loyalty doesn't mean anything when there's no passion, Jason. You're boring. Predictable. I needed more." "More?" I barked, my voice rising. "So you destroy our marriage, our life. For what? A fling? A few moments of excitement? You're pathetic." Her eyes flashed with anger, and she stood up, squaring off with me. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she snapped. "But you're not. You're controlling, needy, and so wrapped up in your perfect little world that you didn't even notice I was drowning." "You didn't talk to me," I shot back. "You didn't give me a chance to fix anything. You just decided to go behind my back and blow up our lives. That's on you, Emily, not me." For a moment, the room was silent, the tension between us thick and suffocating. Then, she smirked, a cruel, bitter smile that made my blood boil. "You think you've won, don't you?" she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You've embarrassed me in front of my friends, called me out like some kind of hero. But let me tell you something, Jason. You're not walking out of this unscathed. You want war? Fine. Let's go to war." Her words hit me like a slap. There was no remorse in her, no regret, just defiance. "You really think this is a game, don't you?" I said, my voice low and cold. "Well, let me tell you something, Emily. I don't lose." I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, but I didn't stop. I headed downstairs, grabbed my suitcase, and left the house. The night air was cool against my face as I stood in the driveway, staring back at the home that had once been my sanctuary. She thought she'd won by kicking me out, by trying to take control of the situation. But she didn't know what was coming next, because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot that I sat in my car in the driveway, the engine idling as my mind raced. Leaving now, tail between my legs, would be exactly what Emily wanted. She'd expect me to lick my wounds, let her take control of the narrative, and eventually fade into irrelevance while she painted herself as the victim. That wasn't going to happen. I had the letter, the evidence. I had the receipts, the photos, and the knowledge of who she really was. And now I had a purpose. This wasn't about saving the marriage anymore. That was long dead. This was about making sure she didn't get to walk away unscathed. The first move came almost instinctively. I picked up my phone and dialed the private investigator. He answered on the second ring. "Jason," he said, his voice steady and professional. "What's the update?" "It's time," I said simply. There was a pause, then a quiet, understanding, "Understood." The investigator had files. Every bit of dirt he'd uncovered, neatly organized. Photos, videos, even text logs he'd managed to retrieve from Emily's burner phone. I told him to package everything and send it to my lawyer. Tonight. Next, I called my lawyer. Aaron was sharp, ruthless, and had been handling my business affairs for years. When I told him what was happening, he didn't hesitate. "I'll start drafting the paperwork," he said. "Divorce? Full asset protection?" "Yes," I replied, "and I want a restraining order ready to file if she tries anything. I'm not giving her an inch." "Understood," Aaron said. "I'll have something ready for you by morning. Stay out of the house until this is handled. Let me do the heavy lifting." I hung up, my hands trembling. Not with fear, but with adrenaline. This was a side of me I hadn't known existed. A cold, calculating resolve that had no room for emotion. But I wasn't done yet. I opened my email and composed a message. The recipients, every single person Emily had invited to her party, along with her closest friends and family. The subject line read, "The truth about Emily." The body of the email was simple. I attached the most damning pieces of evidence. A photo of her holding hands with one of her friends at a hotel bar. A receipt for a hotel room she'd booked under a fake name. And a text exchange where she bragged about finally having the freedom to do what I want without Jason knowing. The message read, "To everyone concerned, I apologize for the public nature of this, but I believe you all deserve to know the truth. Emily has spent months lying, cheating, and disrespecting the life we built together. While I was away working to support our family, she was entertaining other men in our home, in hotels, and wherever else she thought she could get away with it. Attached, you'll find evidence of her actions. I have no interest in further discussions or reconciliation. This is simply to ensure that no one is misled by whatever version of events she chooses to share. Regards, Jason." It was nuclear, but I didn't care. She had humiliated me, destroyed our marriage, and treated me like an afterthought. If she wanted war, she'd just gotten it. I hit send and watched as the email disappeared into cyberspace. For the first time that night, I felt a flicker of calm. Not peace, there was no peace in this, but the satisfaction of knowing I wasn't sitting back and taking it. I started the car and drove to a hotel downtown, my mind already racing with what tomorrow would bring. Whatever Emily thought of me before, she was about to see a whole new side of Jason, and I wasn't going to stop until her perfect little world crumbled around her. The next morning, I woke up in the cold, sterile silence of a hotel room. The events of the night before hit me like a freight train, but instead of dread, I felt a strange clarity. This was the beginning of the end, and for once I was holding all the cards. I picked up my phone to check the damage. The email had done its job. My inbox was flooded with responses. Shock, disbelief, and, from some of Emily's closest friends, thinly veiled outrage. I wasn't surprised. The loyal ones would circle the wagons around her, but the others? They'd already started to turn. One reply stood out. It was from Chloe, Emily's best friend since high school. "Jason, I don't know what to say. I knew she was unhappy, but I didn't think it was like this. Please know I don't condone what she's done. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here." It was short, careful, and exactly what I'd expected. Chloe had always been the diplomat of their friend group. She wouldn't publicly turn on Emily, but she also wasn't about to defend the indefensible. I filed it away and turned my attention to the rest of the fallout. Social media was already buzzing. Emily's Instagram, once a carefully curated gallery of filtered perfection, was eerily quiet. The comment sections on her most recent posts filling with vague questions and passive-aggressive digs. My phone buzzed with a call from Aaron. "It's moving quickly," he said without preamble. "The petition for divorce is ready to file. I'll need your signature by noon. As for the assets, we've secured your accounts and flagged the house. If she tries to pull anything, it'll be caught immediately." "Good," I said, leaning back in the stiff hotel chair. "Anything else?" "She's going to fight back, Jason. People like her don't just roll over. Be ready for retaliation." I thanked him and hung up, his words echoing in my head. Retaliation. Of course, she wouldn't let this go quietly. But I was ready. An hour later, I was back in the car, heading toward the house. I had no intention of staying long. I just needed to grab a few things. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Emily's car was gone. Good. The house was eerily silent as I stepped inside. The remnants of the party were still there. Empty glasses, crumpled napkins, the faint smell of spilled alcohol. It was a graveyard of her reckless behavior. I went upstairs, heading straight for the bedroom. My suitcase was still sitting in the corner where I dropped it the night before, untouched. I began packing what I needed, moving quickly and efficiently. Clothes, documents, a few personal items. But as I opened one of the drawers, something caught my eye. A small, unmarked box tucked beneath a pile of her scarves. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a burner phone. My heart raced as I powered it on, the screen flickering to life. The phone wasn't password protected, and within seconds, I was scrolling through a flurry of texts, photos, and call logs. It was worse than I imagined. Messages to at least 3 different men, each one more incriminating than the last. Flirtatious texts, explicit photos, even plans to meet at specific times and places. But one message stood out. "I think he's on to me. If he finds out, it's over. Let's be careful." The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. She knew. She'd known I was suspicious. And instead of coming clean, she'd doubled down. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me back to reality. It was Chloe. "Jason," she said quickly, her voice tense. "Emily's furious. She knows about the email and she's talking about calling a lawyer. She's also spreading rumors, saying you've been controlling and emotionally abusive." I clenched my jaw. Of course, she'd try to flip the script. "Thanks for the heads up," I said curtly. "Be careful," Chloe added. "She's not thinking straight, and when Emily gets like this, well, you know how she is." I hung up without responding. My focus was on the burner phone. This was my ace. My proof that her lies ran deeper than even I had suspected. I left the house, the box tucked securely in my bag. Emily wanted to play dirty? She'd just given me everything I needed to bury her. The drive back to the hotel was a blur. My mind churned with plans. Every move and countermove laid out like a chessboard in my head. Emily had tipped her hand, but she didn't realize how far ahead I was already thinking. The burner phone was more than just evidence, it was leverage. It confirmed every suspicion I'd had, painted a clear picture of her deceit, and most importantly, proved that she'd known exactly what she was doing. Once back at the hotel, I sat at the small desk and went through the phone in detail. The messages painted a vivid, damning timeline of her infidelity. One man stood out, Chris. His name popped up in nearly every thread, his tone overly familiar, his photos, well, inappropriate didn't even begin to cover it. There were exchanges about sneaking around the house, mocking me for being clueless, and plans for their next meeting. They'd even joked about the party, calling it a great cover for him to be in the house. My jaw clenched as I read the messages. If I'd come home just a few hours later, would he have still been there? Would I have walked into something even worse? But one message in particular stopped me cold. "Chris, when are you telling him? You said you'd end it before Christmas." "Emily, I will. Just waiting for the right time. He's too distracted with work to notice anything right now." She'd planned this. It wasn't a moment of weakness or a fling that spiraled out of control. She'd been orchestrating the end of our marriage while smiling in my face, playing the perfect wife. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Chloe. This time I answered. "Jason," she started, her voice tight with urgency. "Emily knows about the burner phone. She's freaking out. She thinks you're going to use it against her." "She's right," I said, my tone flat. Chloe sighed. "Look, I know you're angry." "Angry?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "Chloe, she humiliated me, lied to me, and brought another man into our home. And now, she's trying to turn this on me? Spare me the lecture." "I'm not lecturing you," Chloe said quickly. "I'm warning you. She's desperate, Jason. When Emily's cornered, she doesn't just roll over. She lashes out." "Let her," I said coldly. "I'm ready." Chloe hesitated. "What are you planning?" "You don't want to know," I replied before ending the call. I spent the next few hours carefully assembling my next move. The burner phone's contents were downloaded to a secure drive, and copies were sent to my lawyer. I also forwarded select screenshots to a few trusted friends, people who could vouch for me if Emily tried to twist the narrative further. By late afternoon, I had everything in place. The divorce paperwork was ready, the evidence secured, and my next move planned. But I wasn't finished yet. I picked up my phone and called the one person Emily wouldn't expect me to contact. Her mother, Jason. Linda's voice was cautious but warm. She and I had always gotten along, even when Emily and I had our rough patches. "Hi, Linda," I said, my tone deliberately calm. "I wanted to talk to you about something. It's important." There was a pause. "This sounds serious." "It is," I said. "I need you to hear this from me before Emily twists it. She's been cheating on me for months. I have evidence, proof of everything. And I'm filing for divorce." Linda gasped. "Oh my God. Jason, I don't even know what to say. Are you sure?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm not telling you this to hurt you, but you deserve to know the truth. I'm not the villain here, no matter what Emily might say." Linda was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was trembling. I don't even recognize her anymore. She's been so distant, so cold. I thought it was just stress, but it's more than that," I said. "And I wanted to make sure you knew what's really happening." "Thank you for telling me," Linda said softly. "I don't know how I'm going to face her, but thank you." As I ended the call, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Linda believed me, but also a deeper sadness. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was about to ripple out and affect everyone around us. Emily had tried to paint me as the villain, but now the tide was turning. She wanted a war? She had no idea how far I was willing to go. Tomorrow I'd make my next move. And when I did, Emily's carefully constructed world would collapse. The morning sunlight streamed through the hotel window, but it brought no warmth. I woke early, fueled by a restless determination. Today was the day I took control. Emily had lit the match. Now I was going to burn it all down. My first call was to Erin. "I need the divorce papers filed today," I said without preamble. "And I want an emergency motion to freeze the house and our joint accounts. She can't get her hands on anything." "It's already in motion," Erin replied smoothly. "By the end of the day, she won't be able to move $1 without my office knowing." "Perfect," I said. "There's one more thing. I want to publicly distance myself from her. Release a statement, leak it if you have to. People need to know this is her doing, not mine." Erin paused. "That's a bold move. It might escalate things." "That's the idea," I said. By the time I hung up, my plan was fully in motion. I checked my email, no new messages from Emily. Instead, there were more replies to my initial email blast. Most were supportive, others cautiously neutral. But one stood out. "Jason, you don't know me, but I thought you should know. Emily isn't who she says she is. She's been doing this for years. You're not the first guy she's done this to, and you won't be the last. If you need more proof, let me know. I have stories." Ryan. The name was unfamiliar, but his tone rang true. "Years?" That was a new revelation. I replied immediately, asking for details. While I waited, I decided to pay one last visit to the house. This time, I wasn't there to pack or retrieve anything. I was there to deliver a message. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily's car was parked out front. I stepped out, the burner phone in my pocket, and strode toward the door. I knocked once. She opened it quickly, her face a storm of anger. "What the hell are you doing here?" she spat. "I came to talk," I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Emily followed me into the living room, crossing her arms. "You've already humiliated me enough. What more do you want?" I turned to face her, my expression calm but cold. "I want you to understand something. This isn't your game anymore. You don't get to control the narrative. Everyone knows who you are now, Emily. And it's only going to get worse." She scoffed, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes. "You're bluffing." I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and tossed it onto the coffee table. Her face went pale as she recognized it. "Go ahead," I said. "Read through it. Relive every lie, every plan, every betrayal." Because I've already sent copies to my lawyer and a few of your friends. They deserve to know the truth, don't you think? Emily stared at the phone, her hands trembling slightly. Then she snapped. You're such a coward, she hissed, her voice shaking. You can't handle the fact that I moved on. You think ruining my reputation is going to fix anything? You think anyone cares about your sob story? I don't care if they pity me, I said evenly. I just care that they see you for what you are. Her composure cracked, and she lunged for the phone, but I stepped between her and the table. You don't get to take the easy way out, I said. You made this mess, Emily. Now you're going to live in it. She glared at me, breathing heavily, but didn't try to push past me again. Instead, she spat out, You're pathetic. I smirked. Maybe, but at least I'm not a liar. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and glanced at the screen. It was an email from Ryan, the stranger who'd reached out earlier. The subject line read, Proof attached. I turned the screen toward Emily, my smile widening as I opened the message. Looks like your past is catching up to you, I said, scrolling through the attached photos and messages. Her face twisted in panic. Who is that? Who sent you that? Just someone you burned before me, I said, pocketing my phone. It seems your list of enemies is longer than I thought. Emily's bravado crumbled, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. Jason, she said, her voice suddenly soft, almost pleading. Please, we can fix this. Let's just talk about it. No, I said, my voice like steel. We're past talking. You wanted war, Emily. Now you've got it. I turned and walked out of the house without looking back. This wasn't just a collapse. This was a reckoning as I left the house. Emily's desperate plea echoed in my mind. Please, we can fix this. It wasn't a sign of remorse. It was a survival instinct. She saw the walls closing in, and for once, she wasn't the one holding the reins. Good. I got back into my car, took a deep breath, and opened Ryan's email again. The attachments were damning screenshots of conversations, explicit photos, and even a few voice memos. Ryan's story was clear. He'd been in a relationship with Emily years before me, and the pattern was eerily familiar. Lies, infidelity, manipulation. She'd moved on from him just as callously as she was trying to move on from me now. But what struck me most was a line in his email. She always underestimated me, but I kept everything. People like her always think they'll get away with it. It hit close to home. Emily had underestimated me, too. I replied to Ryan, thanking him and asking if he'd be willing to speak with my lawyer. His response was almost immediate. Absolutely. Let me know when and where. With every piece of evidence, my case was growing stronger. But this wasn't just about the legal battle anymore. This was about making sure Emily couldn't spin her lies into another new start. As the day unfolded, the fallout became increasingly visible. My phone buzzed with texts and calls from mutual friends, many of whom were furious with Emily. Mark, bro, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If you need anything, let me know. Laura, I don't know what to say. I always thought she was off. Now I get it. Even Chloe reached out again. She's losing it, Jason, she said. She's calling everyone, trying to get ahead of the story. She told me you're fabricating everything to ruin her life. I let out a bitter laugh. Let her try. I've got enough evidence to sink her 10 times over. Chloe hesitated. You're not wrong, but just be careful. She's unpredictable when she feels trapped. I thanked her and hung up, though her warning lingered in my mind. Later that afternoon, Aaron called with an update. We filed the paperwork, he said. The house and accounts are frozen, and the divorce petition is airtight. She won't have any wiggle room. Good, I said. And the burner phone evidence? Already submitted as part of the case. With the emails from Ryan and the timeline we've established, it's going to be hard for her to paint herself as a victim. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of satisfaction. But this was far from over. Around 6 p.m., I received a text from an unknown number. You're playing a dangerous game, Jason. Walk away while you still can. My stomach churned. It didn't take much to guess who had sent it. The tone screamed of desperation. a last-ditch attempt to intimidate me. I replied calmly, "Nice try, Emily. See you in court." I blocked the number immediately. That evening, as I sat in the quiet of my hotel room, my mind wandered back to the life we'd built together. The trips, the celebrations, the quiet moments of laughter. All of it now felt like a carefully crafted illusion, a performance she'd been perfecting for years. But illusions only last as long as no one looks too closely. I took out the burner phone one last time and stared at the screen. It was a trophy of sorts, a symbol of her hubris and my resolve. Emily's perfect little world was falling apart, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was flooded with notifications, calls, texts, emails, and social media pings. Emily had launched her counterattack. The first sign was a long Facebook post she'd written. It was as dramatic as I expected, dripping with faux vulnerability and martyrdom. I never thought I'd have to do this, but I can't stay silent anymore. Jason has been trying to destroy my life, spreading lies about me, and turning people against me. He's always been controlling, manipulative, and emotionally abusive. I made mistakes, but no one deserves this kind of treatment. To anyone who knows the real me, thank you for your support. I need you now more than ever. The comments were split. Some of her friends and family rushed to her defense, parroting her accusations and vilifying me. Others, including mutual friends, asked pointed questions or expressed doubt. I wasn't surprised by her tactics. This was textbook Emily, playing the victim, spinning the narrative, and banking on the fact that most people wouldn't look too closely. But this time I was ready. I called Aaron and updated him. "She's going public," I said. "She's accusing me of emotional abuse." Aaron's response was calm and measured. "We anticipated this. Stick to the facts. Let her bury herself. The more she overplays her hand, the easier it'll be to disprove her claims in court." After the call, I decided to address the situation head-on. I drafted my own post, careful to keep it factual and unemotional. Many of you have seen Emily's recent post. While I respect her right to share her perspective, I want to clarify a few things. The issues in our marriage stemmed from her repeated infidelity, which I have evidence to prove. This isn't about control or manipulation. It's about accountability. I filed for divorce, and the truth will come out in time. I appreciate those who've supported me through this difficult process. I attached a single photo, a screenshot of a text from the burner phone, where Emily had joked about deceiving me. It wasn't overly revealing, but it was enough to plant doubt in the minds of anyone paying attention. The response was immediate. My inbox filled with messages of support, curiosity, and outrage. Many people asking for more details, others expressing disbelief that Emily could sink so low. But then came the twist I hadn't expected. Around noon, I received an email from Ryan. He'd done some digging of his own and uncovered even more skeletons in Emily's closet. Among them was evidence that she'd embezzled money from a small nonprofit she'd volunteered with years ago. He also found a record of her being sued by a former employer for breach of contract. "Jesus," I muttered, scrolling through the attachments. Emily's pattern of deceit went far deeper than I'd realized. I forwarded everything to Aaron, who called me almost immediately. "This changes everything," he said, his tone sharp. "If we can corroborate this, we're no longer just looking at a divorce case. She could be facing criminal charges." The weight of his words sank in. Emily had always been reckless, but this was beyond anything I'd anticipated. "Do it," I said. "Verify everything and make it part of the case." By the afternoon, Emily's Facebook post had started to backfire. People were poking holes in her story, asking questions she couldn't answer. The more she tried to deflect, the more transparent her lies became. Chloe texted me, "She's unraveling. People are starting to see through her. Whatever you're doing, keep going." I replied simply, "I will." That evening, I received another email, this time from the private investigator. He tracked down Chris, the guy from the party, and confirmed that Emily had been stringing him along with promises of a future once she got rid of Jason. Chris, it turned out, had no idea she was married until recently. The investigator attached a statement from Chris, along with texts Emily had sent him. One line stood out, "Don't worry about Jason. He's too dumb to figure anything out." The words stung, but they also fueled my resolve. I wasn't dumb. I wasn't oblivious. And now I was in control. Emily's world was collapsing faster than even I'd hoped. The lies were piling up, the evidence mounting, and her allies dwindling. Tomorrow, Aaron and I would file an amended petition with everything we'd uncovered. Emily wanted a war, and now she was drowning in it. I wasn't going to stop until every card she thought she held was ripped from her hands. The next morning, the storm intensified. Emily's attempts to control the narrative had spiraled into desperation, and she was throwing everything she had into saving face. My lawyer, Aaron, called early with an update. "She's filing a response to your petition," he said. "She's claiming you were emotionally abusive and sabotaged her ability to work. It's laughable, given the evidence we have, but it shows how far she's willing to go." I rubbed my temples. Let her dig her hole deeper. The burner phone, Ryan's emails, Chris's statement. They're all lined up, right? "Absolutely," Aaron replied. "Once we present this in court, her credibility will be shredded. But there's something else." "What?" "She's trying to liquidate assets," Aaron said grimly. "We caught her attempting to transfer money from your joint account into a personal one. The court order froze it before the transaction went through, but it shows she's panicking. It was a reckless move, and it confirmed what I already suspected. Emily was unraveling. But this wasn't just about the divorce anymore. The evidence Ryan had uncovered about her embezzlement was a ticking time bomb. Aaron had forwarded it to a contact in the local prosecutor's office, and I knew it was only a matter of time before they started investigating. By mid-morning, I decided it was time to turn up the heat. I called Chloe. "Jason," she said cautiously. "What's going on now?" "I need a favor," I said. "Emily's still trying to spin this as my fault. I need you to talk to her friends, the ones who haven't picked a side yet. Show them the burner phone screenshots. Let them see the truth for themselves." Chloe hesitated. "That's bold. You sure you want to go that far?" "She's already accused me of abuse," I said coldly. "She's trying to destroy my reputation. I'm done playing nice." Chloe sighed but agreed. "I'll handle it." By early afternoon, the ripple effect began. Chloe texted me updates as she quietly shared the evidence with key people in Emily's social circle. "Chloe just showed Lauren the screenshots. She's furious. Said she's done defending Emily." Chloe: "Katie just called Emily a narcissist. Didn't see that coming." Meanwhile, I received a call from the private investigator. "Jason," he said, "I have more information on the nonprofit embezzlement case. Turns out, the organization never pressed charges because Emily agreed to repay the stolen funds quietly. I've contacted the director. They're willing to give a statement." "Unbelievable," I muttered. Emily's recklessness was catching up with her in ways she couldn't escape. The breaking point came later that evening. I was sitting in my hotel room, reviewing the final draft of our amended petition, when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. I debated ignoring it but decided to answer. "What do you want?" I said coldly. There was a pause before she spoke, her voice trembling. "Jason, we need to talk. Face to face." I let out a bitter laugh. "You're kidding, right? After everything you've done." "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm serious. I made a mistake. Okay? But we can fix this. Just come to the house. I'll explain everything." Her tone was desperate, almost pleading, but I wasn't buying it. "I'll pass," I said flatly. "Anything you have to say, you can say through your lawyer." "Jason," she snapped, the desperation giving way to anger. "You think you're so perfect? So innocent? Fine. Let's see what happens when I tell everyone what you're really like. You think I don't have dirt on you? You think I won't use it? Go ahead," I said calmly. "But just know, Emily, every move you make digs the hole deeper. You're out of cards to play." She was silent for a long moment before the line went dead. I set the phone down, my hands steady. This was her last stand, a desperate attempt to regain control. But it was too late. The evidence, the witnesses, and the truth were all stacked against her. By the end of the week, Aaron and I would present everything to the court. Emily's lies, her infidelity, her financial schemes. It would all come to light, and when it did, she wouldn't just lose the divorce. She'd lose everything. The courtroom was a quiet storm of tension, the air thick with anticipation. I sat next to Aaron, my lawyer, calm on the surface but seething underneath. Across the aisle sat Emily, her perfectly curated mask of innocence cracking under the weight of what she knew was coming. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. Emily's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling and emotionally abusive, leaning into her narrative with dramatic flair. They presented no real evidence, only Emily's testimony. A web of lies designed to smear my character and justify her actions. Aaron waited patiently, his demeanor steady and confident. When it was our turn, he began dismantling their case piece by piece, starting with the burner phone. "This is a critical piece of evidence, Your Honor," Aaron said, holding up the phone. "It contains text messages, photos, and call logs that document the respondent's infidelity and her intent to deceive my client." He read a few select messages aloud, each one a dagger to Emily's fabricated story. The courtroom was silent except for the occasional gasp from the small gallery. But that was just the beginning. Aaron introduced Ryan's testimony next. He described Emily's pattern of manipulation and deceit, detailing how she had lied to him, cheated, and left him blindsided. His words were calm but damning, painting a clear picture of who Emily really was. The final blow came when Aaron presented the evidence of her embezzlement from the nonprofit. He laid out the financial discrepancies, the repayment agreement, and the director's statement. "Your Honor," Aaron concluded, "this is not the behavior of someone who is mistreated or controlled. This is a pattern of selfish, reckless decisions that have caused significant harm to my client and others." Emily's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. The judge's expression grew colder with every revelation, and by the time Aaron finished, there was no doubt which way the scales were tipping. When Emily took the stand, she tried to muster her usual bravado, but it was clear she was unraveling. Her answers were evasive, her tone defensive, and her attempts to redirect blame fell flat. At one point, Aaron asked her directly, "Mrs. Daniels, can you explain why you attempted to liquidate assets from your joint account after being served with the court order?" Emily stammered, her composure faltering completely. I didn't know about the order," she said weakly. "Interesting," Aaron replied, his voice razor-sharp. "Because here's the timestamp showing the bank alert notifying you the transaction was blocked." She was silent, her face pale. The judge didn't need long to make a ruling. "The evidence overwhelmingly supports the petitioner's claims," she said, her tone firm. "The respondent's actions have demonstrated a clear pattern of dishonesty, infidelity, and financial irresponsibility. Therefore, I'm granting the divorce on grounds of adultery and awarding Mr. Daniels the majority of marital assets, including